we don't really know anything. That they're kind of at the point of this recording. We are 7 weeks post surgery. We know that he is in his ramp up process, that he's begun his return to basketball activities, that he's been on the court just about every day. To what extent, we don't fully know. And again, they've kept everything very close to the vest throughout this entire process. What's your outlook on Embiid's return? Do you have any feel for when you think it might be? Are you concerned with the lack of transparency, or is this just how the Sixers do business?
I was gonna say it's kind of what they do. It's just
Yep.
I have never expected really much transparency from them or direct in nature at all. The Sixers have avoided that basically the entire time I've been a fan of them. So not surprising there. Obviously, I'd like to have a bit of a better idea of when to expect him back. I mean, they have what you said, about 10 games left. I don't know what the time is. So we got a couple of games to finish out here. They're back at home starting tomorrow. And then they have another game at home on Tuesday. So I was thinking, the second would be, that'd be a full 8 weeks from the surgery. And then they go back on the road. Yeah. They go back on the road for a short, like 2 or 3 game road trip. And then they come back for 3 games at home to finish the season. So I feel like he's the type of guy to want to come back at home. They could use him as soon as possible because, like I said, you probably want to avoid that 8 seed. But,
Yeah.
Take his time at this point. You kind of are where you are. And, it really is going to happen whenever it does. I think it's going to be a day-to-day thing where Joel comes back and is like, I'm sure he wants to play as soon as he can, but they have to be cautious and smart about this. But I think I've seen a lot of people like online saying just like ice him out and close out the season. I think that's really lame and honestly very soft from people. Is like, dude, he recovered. He had the surgery. He's here. He's ready to go. Like, this team is a real fighting chance, I think, against basically anybody in the conference. So whether you have to play them in round 1 or round 3, doesn't really matter. So I think that, hopefully it's as soon as you can. And if you can play 4 or 5 games before the end of the season and help dig them out of this little hole that they've been in, it could be really helpful. So I would imagine, I guess my prediction would be like either the second against Oklahoma City or after that little road trip to come back against Detroit, which would be the following. I don't know what the date is, but maybe the 12th or something like that.
Yeah, the point you touched on there, I want to jump on is that I have seen a ton of that buzz, that chatter of what's the point of bringing him back? Why is that? That's so beyond lame. I think it's dumb. Like, I think the outlook is you have a limited amount of playoff runs with Joel Embiid. That in his career, there is a finite number of these that we're going to get. This is an opportunity to do just that. And while this is not perfect, while obviously this roster has not looked good, the bottom line is we haven't seen a healthy Joel Embiid playoff run yet. And we have a chance to see that. That's really been the biggest hurdle for him playing his best, even if people want to kind of write their narratives as they seem fit. That's been the issue, that there's been broken faces and torn ligaments and thumbs and torn meniscuses and everything else that he's dealt with that has prevented him from playing at his peak. The best case scenario is he's looking like that. Now, granted, we could see a freak injury in round 1 and all of a sudden we're complaining, why is he back and all those things. But when you're having one of the best players in the planet, the reigning MVP of the league, and a team that is at least competent around him, I'm not saying rush to your favorite sports book and throw everything on these Sixers to win a championship now. Respect that. I was going to follow up with in fact, I'd probably say don't do that, but I respect that you did. And yeah, well, stranger things have happened, man. And I will also note, like, the Miami Heat came out of the play-in tournament last year, that this is something that it happens in the NBA, that this is something like it's not off the table. And to kind of put a bow on the exact schedule, you kind of mentioned it here, did want to pull this up. So you can see tomorrow night back home against the Clippers, the return of James Harden to Philadelphia, then back on the road against the Cavs, the Raptors, then back home against the Thunder, which is that April 2nd date, which would be exactly 8 weeks from the initial surgery, then down against the Miami Heat, which is going to be a big game in terms of standings. Yeah, that's going to be one that if Joel can play in, they could absolutely use him for, because that's pretty much a must win from a standing standpoint. Then a very favorable end to their season at Memphis against the Grizzlies, in San Antonio against the Spurs, against the Detroit Pistons, against the Orlando Magic, who are playing well, and then against the Brooklyn Nets. So a pretty favorable end to the season there. That is something that I can see working out. That final 5 games, you can go on a 5-0 run, maybe push yourself up the standings. We'll see what everything has there. But I do see a pathway in which they can at least stay afloat more than I think a lot of people are giving credit, even though it's not ideal right now. And to kind of, you have anything on that before I shift gears?
I want to just put it in perspective, like the situation that they're currently in is like, you need, like, it's been a couple of years since Tyrese, like, Maxey has been ready. He's fucking ready.
Yeah.
The way that he's played over like this stretch, obviously without Joel, he's ready, dude. He has found a way to score against every single team, obviously. And now, or guys, the teams are throwing 3 guys at him. Like last night, you look at he had 21 in the first quarter. They were blitzing him, doubling him, like getting the ball out of his hands as soon as they possibly can. And they're talking about a 22, 23-year-old guard. Like he has grown into the scorer that needs to be there next to Joel. Harden was not that. Obviously, Simmons was not that. Tobias has never been that. Like Maxi's ready,
Yeah.
right? Wing depth. You have all of that. Something that they haven't had before. Obviously, there's a lot to be desired in certain places, but you have guys that cover the bases in a lot of different ways. Oubre has been playing great.
Awesome.
We can talk about him later down the line. I'm sure he's been fantastic. I really have enjoyed the Kelly Oubre experience. You have the vets, Kyle Lowry, even like Cameron Payne on nights like that when he was coming out. Obviously, Paul Reed has proven himself to be a good backup enough to take up those minutes. Like, you go for this. This is like you like you said, you only have so many of these. You go for this every chance that you get. Honestly, man, like if I'm being completely honest, it's gonna sound maybe crazy. Like outside of the Celtics, I don't see a team that's honest to God on paper better than the Sixers. Like
Wow.
I don't think the Bucks are better. I don't think the Cavs are better. Do you think the
Definitely not.
Cavs are better? Do you think the
I think
Magic are better?
Cavs are straight frauds. I've been pounding that table all year.
Yeah. So I feel like you look at this and you see like, you know what, we have the pieces here. Hopefully, you can get a couple of wins to move yourself up the standings. Like if they got the 6 or 7 seed, I feel confident in those matchups. And I don't know, man. I just feel like Joel was the best player in the league by like a large margin this
Yep.
year. If he can be healthy, and it's all about the defense in the playoffs, which we've talked about, if he can come in and at least be that rim protector that he normally is and being able to anchor the defense and then also just uses gravity to help Tyrese and Buddy Hield and all these other guys, I feel good about their chances. I do. Maybe and like it
I
maybe
love
I'm
it.
insane, like it's we've probably gone back at the last 3 seasons and look at me at this time of the year and say, this is their best chance. I've probably said that before, but I feel that way this year. I don't know.